Hello and welcome to our event, The Modern Network for a Future-Ready Business. I'm Tom Gillis and I'm the General Manager for Networking and Security here at VMware. And we're going to talk today about some new advances in network virtualization capability and what this means for you and how you can operationalize this to make your infrastructure more efficient, more agile, lower cost, and more secure. Powerful combination. So let's jump right into it. We're going to hear from Pat Gelsinger, our CEO, with his vision for network virtualization. Pat?
Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. At the outset, I wanted to mention that as part of this online event, VMware will be making a donation to direct support of Global Giving's Coronavirus Relief Fund. We are coming together to help stop the virus's spread and give communities on the front lines the resources they need to act quickly and protect the most vulnerable. The understatement of the year, 2020, has been extraordinary and challenging. Against this backdrop, we're in the midst of a profound rethink across every dimension of our lives: how we care for our sick, how we connect, how we live, how we worship, how we learn, and how we work. It is also heartening to see how we have come together and how technology has enabled us to overcome significant obstacles as we continue to march forward. At the center of this profound rethink is digital innovation, and we're seeing a historic increase in our reliance on apps, clouds, and devices. Our strategy is resonating more powerfully than ever. Applications have become the face and the digital lifeblood of businesses. These applications are modular and often born in the cloud, adapting to user and market demands. These applications need to be available across any location and any device. Rapid innovation combined with frictionless consumption is the name of the game. This is truly a unique community, and at the heart of it is you, our customers, plus our valued partners around the world, and Team VMware, now more than 33,000 strong. Deperimeterization has been happening in the industry for years. However, COVID has created a huge acceleration of this important trend. Your infrastructure and your network must adapt to this new deperimeterized world. VMware is leading this charge with what we call the modern network, a networking and security solution that leverages the power of software to simplify operations, improve the end user experience, and at the same time deliver even better security than what we were able to do before with hardware-centric security appliances. The way you access applications has permanently changed. It's called the SASE model. Rather than backhauling traffic to meet the security services, we put the security services wherever you are, at home, at work, or on the move. It's the right answer for today's work from anywhere world. The way you run applications has permanently changed. As we deperimeterize the old world of a hard exterior and soft interior, at VMware we believe in zero trust, which means we make the assumption that somehow, some way, somebody is going to get in and find their way into your infrastructure. But with modern networking tools from VMware powering your data center, attackers may find a way in, but they will not be able to stay in very long. These tools run on every cloud you care about, private, public, and hybrid, for consistent connectivity and controls in a multi-cloud world. The modern network establishes both, and in this new world, appliances are no longer relevant. We do all of this in software, and because this is so powerful, the market has really reacted positively. We must be doing something right. Our networking business has more than doubled in the last 3 years, and at greater than 20% year-on-year growth rate, we are growing faster than the 3 largest hardware appliance vendors combined. The cloud has killed the appliance, and COVID has accelerated it. Given the time we are living in, this change is no longer optional. It's an imperative for every single business. Our strategy in a nutshell: we deliver the digital foundation for an unpredictable world. This is what we are doing for our customers. I am very excited to introduce you to our Chief Operating Officer, Rajiv Ramaswamy, who will describe the modern network in more detail. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Pat. I'm Rajiv Ramaswamy, COO at VMware. When we speak to our customers and ask them what problem we're solving for them, it's always the same thing. Our customers want to enable their employees to access their apps wherever they are. They want to bring the public cloud principles to their private cloud. And it's not just about launching a VM. It's about launching a full workload. That means configuring the network, implementing security policy, the load balancer for scaling, and more. These solutions all have APIs, but it's still difficult to automate. And the reason it's difficult is that the APIs are at a primitive level. We all know that partial automation means a ticket, and tickets take time. And I know this because I run software development for the 6th largest software company in the world. What our developers need from infrastructure is agility and automation. When they launch a workload, they want it to work and not have to open tickets and wait for weeks. With over 2 million containers and well over 1 million VMs set up and taken down every week, automation is key for us. Because we are fully automated, even during this global crisis, there was no impact to our productivity. The traditional networking model is about connecting boxes in campus and branch and data center with little attention paid to the apps running on top of the infrastructure. The modern network flips this on its head, taking the bold view that infrastructure exists only in service of the application. Let's look at this approach. There are 3 pillars to a modern network architecture. The first is that the network needs to provide the connectivity needed for modern applications. The second is that all network infrastructure services in a virtual form factor spanning across on-prem and cloud infrastructures. And the third is the actual silicon that moves the bits. And as always, we need security across all of these. Done right, that delivers agility and saves money. Let's dive into the first pillar, modern apps connectivity services. What we really want here is the ability to specify parameters for the user device to app experience. Think of it as sliders that you set, and the infrastructure underneath adjusts to support and enforce those objectives. And one of those objectives is security. Let's look at security in the context of a distributed workforce. In the old world, if you had an employee in Sao Paulo working from home and doing a Zoom call, that traffic would get backhauled all the way to a data center DMZ in New Jersey. And that's because all the boxes that did security were located there. And then onwards to Zoom running in the public cloud. We would do this using dedicated security appliances, firewalls, web security, and more that were deployed in that DMZ environment at a few points of presence. Now, imagine if we take that DMZ infrastructure and broke it into hundreds of pieces and placed those in points of presence all around the globe. Instead of moving the traffic to where the services are, we move the services to where the traffic is. Now, the traffic can go directly through the nearest point of presence, and the security will be applied there prior to handing off the traffic to its final destination in the public cloud or in the data center. Reducing latency is make or break for user-to-app traffic and the interconnection of things. 5G and edge computing go hand in hand to enable how latency across the WAN is kept low as part of an on-demand network stack. So this approach provides a significantly better experience for users accessing their apps from wherever they are, while building in security distributed into that infrastructure. Let's move on to multi-cloud network virtualization. To get the infrastructure to support the user and the applications, you need a full network stack across multiple clouds. It must go beyond just switching and routing to include advanced load balancing and firewalling, enabling virtual machines, containers to all communicate. And if you want to measure end-to-end application performance, you need to use a software stack that spans all the way across the wide area network. Else, you get partial automation, And as we know, partial automation is an oxymoron. And network services are most efficient and effective when run close to the workloads. Now, you need automation at the time of initial setup of the workload, but you also need it for ongoing operations. This is where a lot of time gets spent. You want to be able to automatically detect issues and more, fix problems automatically at scale. And you want to do this across private clouds and public clouds with one consistent set of policies and cloud management. Last but not the least, let's talk about that physical network infrastructure. This is what most data centers look like today. We see this moving to something that looks more like this. This is what the innards of a cloud data center look like. And when we run our software-based distributed firewall across thousands of hypervisors, running across tens of thousands of cores, we can get 20 terabits per second of throughput. That's an order of magnitude more than the largest hardware firewall. And we can deliver this at 3x lower cost. Similarly, with our advanced load balancer, we can auto-scale and deliver 1 million SSL transactions per second. This is also an order of magnitude more than the largest hardware load balancer. In both cases, it is scale-out software running on commodity x86 hardware that eliminates the need for special-purpose hardware appliances. And looking out at the near horizon, we have Smartnics, or Smart Network Interface Controllers, that take this even further. Smartnics are essentially powerful NICs that include significant compute horsepower and accelerators to handle networking, security, and storage functions. We still need the physical layer to move bits rapidly from point A to point B. So the physical network becomes all about providing high capacity, low latency connectivity. Keep it simple and let the software do its job on top. Implement your network policy and configuration and software, which allows your network to become code. Policies can get coded and built into the CI/CD pipeline. So, we've defined the 3 pillars of the modern network with the 5 supporting tenets. The virtual cloud network is VMware's embodiment of the modern network. It's about any app to any cloud to any device, anywhere. The VMware virtual cloud network is mature and proven. If you look at the results, we must be doing something right. We have 18,000 plus customers, 91 of the Fortune 100. 8 out of the top 10 telcos use us. We are deployed in 280,000 branches around the world. With that, I'm going to hand this back to Tom Gillis to share some of the big virtual cloud network advances that we're announcing today.
Thanks, Rajiv. So you heard it from Rajiv. Now let's hear it from some of our customers who can talk about the impact that network virtualization has had for them as they operate their business.
The modern networking component really helps us be able to deliver that experience to our business units as they need capacity. What Trend is looking to do and tie things together with VMware Technologies is really we want to create a seamless experience where our business units and our end users really don't know where anything's running. So we want it to be transparent, we want it to be easy, and as we create those tools, they just say, hey, I need this capacity, and it's going to go and automatically create. So with that, looking at things like some of the software-defined load balancing, that next generation piece is there to be able to dynamically scale up the throughput and capacity and route where it needs to go.
Hi, good morning. My name is Thomas Squayo. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Intrado Digital Media. Intrado is a business-to-business communications firm. We focus on 3 main segments, including life and safety, which is the 911 system in North America. When we went through this process from a networking standpoint, some of the requirements that we typically had were we had to be multi-cloud. So in our continuous delivery work, we've actually established things like SLIs, SLOs, and error budgets for the applications. Kind of on an ongoing performance perspective, we have created what we call a 5S framework using working very closely with VMware as well as also with New Relic. And that's where we focus on stability, scalability, security, speed, and then also the savings or the financial dimension of the equation as well.
VMware's modern network is a huge contributor into the William Hill ecosystem currently. So right now we do leverage the functionalities such as NSX distributed firewall, which we use microsegmentation. And that's all integrated into our own private cloud platform, which we call William Hill Cloud. It's all driven automatically using VMware APIs. And that gives us complete confidence and control that our security posture is as tight as it can be whilst deploying applications very quickly. As part of that, our developers know and understand how these policies are put together, which makes the entire deployment sequence a lot quicker and easier in the SDDC.
And that's where things like NSX and different types of innovation of using those pipelines allow us to be able to then enable a consistent user experience and infrastructure experience no matter where the application goes. I think our best way to be able to help ourselves in the future, in the next 2 years, is to continually evolve with developing these types of traditional practices of agile pipeline CI/CD. We start to use more of that within our own pipelines as infrastructure engineers. As we become more experienced in using these types of pipelines and these types of development practices, with making a consistent consumption and consistent security model across multiple clouds and multiple infrastructure, hybrid cloud, and whatever you want to do, if we can be able to do those same practices, we allow our developers to innovate quicker. So for us, our main goal is to automate, and use the same practices as our developers in our infrastructure.
It has changed the life approach totally 180 degree, I would say. NSX is all about software approach and absolutely service defined. The service defined firewalling gives us a benefit, many benefits like east-west trafficking too. Trust me, in earlier day scenarios, we had no other options to safeguard the VM level firewalling, but using the NSX, I'm able to do that. So with the help of NSX, definitely the security posture of our network has changed and improved a lot. And that is helping us out as a engineering as a function, infrastructure as a function, as well as to my business. And obviously, once the availability has increased, it is serving to my subscribers as well.
So you heard it from Rajiv and you've heard it from our customers. Now I'm going to talk about some new announcements we have that continue our progress towards our vision of the modern network. So at VMworld this year, we recently made some important announcements. One of them was about our SASE, or Secure Access Services Edge offering. And the second piece of news is we're continuing to make advancements on delivering the public cloud experience in your private cloud infrastructure. That's what this is about, is making your data center easy to operate and more secure at the same time, all by harnessing the power of software. Our first piece of news is in our modern apps connectivity services. In the old model, applications were much more monolithic. There was 3 tiers to an application. In a container-based world, there could be 10, 100, maybe even 1,000 services that make up that application. The application begins to look like a network unto itself. So how do we do security in this type of world? Well, with Tanzu Service Mesh, we inject a layer 7 control point between every single one of these containers. This is a very powerful security capability because it understands the context of who's talking to who and allows us to do policy enforcement in your cloud native applications wherever they're running, whatever cloud infrastructure you're running them upon. This also embraces a new policy model that is attribute-based. What this means is we're able to look at, it's almost like common sense, the who, what, where, when, and how. Who are you? What application are you trying to use? Where are you coming from? What's the status of your device? And this allows us to make much richer and much more high fidelity security policy decisions. And because of our zero trust architecture, we push that enforcement right to the edge where it's on the endpoint itself or on the server itself. And this makes it much easier to manage and deploy these policies. And so you have better security that is easier to manage and it works in every cloud. We've also made integrations with our NSX Advanced Load Balancer to make it super easy for an app developer using Kubernetes to be able to launch an application and get all the load balancing services they need without ever needing to think about or touch the infrastructure. This is all driven by APIs, and you have ingress load balancing, you have web app firewall, you have GSLB, global load balancing, and DNS capabilities that are all programmatically driven, and we make it easy for the developers to launch a complete workload with all of the network services they need to support it from their Kubernetes console. And this is what's necessary in a cloud-native, agile world. Lastly, with Project Antrea, we have an open source cluster-level networking solution. This is built on the back of Open vSwitch. Open vSwitch is one of the most widely deployed open source projects in the community. Antrea leverages this unique layer 4 firewall capability of Open vSwitch and all the familiarity and reliability of the Open vSwitch community and brings it into the container world. It also acts as a 2-tier architecture with NSX. Use Antrea for your cluster level connections, make it easy for developers to deploy and get running, and then NSX can provide connectivity between clusters and from clusters to VMs. So this is a unique architecture that is designed for what we call cloud scale in this cloud native application world. Now we're going to talk about some advances in the virtualized network infrastructure. So our vision at VMware is to provide an end-to-end view of your infrastructure and your application performance. vRealize Network Insight provides that end-to-end view from the database, through the app tier, through the web tier, to the edge of the data center, from the virtual to the physical, across the WAN, over the wireless LAN controller, all the way to the end user. So it's a single pane of glass that can show you how your application is responding. Very, very powerful for identifying problems. And also, more and more, we're beginning to actually address and rectify problems. And this is creating a self-healing component. So with our SD-WAN capability, we have new edge network intelligence, which allows us to identify problems in the last mile delivery. Let's say, for example, there's a problem with the wireless LAN controller or a problem on the WAN network itself, and we can route around those problems and automatically make sure that your end user experience is consistently excellent. So Verni, working hand in hand with our SD-WAN capability and with NSX, provides that end-to-end view of your application performance. And finally, the last piece of news is around our physical network infrastructure. So with Project Monterey, we announced the ability to support Smartnics. And this is really powerful for NSX because, as you probably know, one of the unique things about NSX is it uses a distributed security model. What this means is we take traditional firewall capabilities, we define them in software, and we push them into literally thousands of little places. So imagine a little tiny baby firewall running in the hypervisor. If it's a bare metal workload, it can run in a driver that's installed in a Windows or Linux server. And now this software can run in the NIC itself. And by running in the NIC, this allows us to deal with high performance workloads such as a database that are too sensitive for virtualization, even too sensitive to put an agent into, but it's too hard to put a firewall in front of it. Now you can effectively do that by running this software in the NIC. And this creates an air gap or a separation between the host and the security element for the best possible security. The way we're able to achieve this is we're running the full suite of NSX services as well as ESX in the NIC itself. And so what we're announcing today is that we're running layer 2 and layer 3 distributed virtual switching at wire speed. We can also do layer 4 firewalling, stateful firewall inspection, also at wire speed. And we can even do layer 7 content inspection with IDS IPS, all running in the NIC. And when you add ESX into the NIC, now you have the operational tools that you're familiar with vCenter. You can put to work all of this running on bare metal workloads that really not addressable before. So it's a powerful new way of thinking about how we secure and manage our data center assets. So these are the advances in the modern network. And so you've heard it from me, but I think it's best to hear it from our partners who can talk about how they can take these transformative technologies and help you put them to work in your environment.
I think one of the big things is that everything is about the application now. It's about the application and the application experience. And when we think about the different VMware products that we leverage as part of our SSI integrations, it really comes down to everything from that network layer, being able to abstract that from those traditional physical infrastructure components that they used to solely reside in, being able to give more control and freedom to the application owners to actually build secure network infrastructures that meet their specific needs. and at the same time, leveraging those same constructs to be able to bridge the gap from on-prem data centers to public cloud spaces. So as applications continue to grow and evolve to embrace this new world of infrastructure, it's absolutely essential that the network be bundled into that overall application lifecycle, and everything from the traditional transport all the way up to scalability and security.
Atea is the number one IT infrastructure provider as a reseller in the Nordics. Well, when it comes to modern networks, we see a big shift. Many customers that want us to help them go into the cloud. I mean, to have a hybrid cloud solution where they have their private infrastructure jointly together with the public clouds. Thanks to our partnership with VMware, I mean, we are jointly doing this together. So, I mean, the cooperation is critical. VMware has a very broad product family that we are using. And when it comes to develop, for example, hybrid clouds, we are in need of the NSX solution that you provide so that we can seamlessly connect the private and the public clouds.
My team brings new technologies and combining with VMware solution and creating a new solution to solve customers' pain point. Network has been doing a network integration business in Japan over 30 years. Our main customers are large enterprise, telecom carriers, and public sectors. Everybody intend to proceeding digital transformation. As a result, the microservices and the container-based, the modern application is widely deployed. That's started in Japan. VMware provides a comprehensive portfolio, NSX, data center, SD-WAN, cloud and security. They can be managed by integrated control, vRealize Insight. Also, visibility and optimization tools are provided. These features can be embedded onto their systems. That is really a great point for customers who require the business speed and the adoption.
So you've heard it from our partners. Now I would like to introduce Ambika Kapoor, our Vice President of Marketing, who's going to have a fireside chat with Brad Casemore from IDC about the impact of network virtualization on customers and on the industry at whole.
Thank you, Tom. So what I want to do next is invite Brad Casemore from IDC, and he'll be in conversation with me for the next few minutes. Welcome, Brad, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Ambika. It's great to be here today. Yes, I am VP Research for Data Center and Multi-Cloud Networking at IDC, and I look at all the software and hardware that is networking related that goes into data centers everywhere.
Now, Brad, I know that IDC is a data-focused company, so it would be great to just hear from you. You know, what are the trends that you're seeing today, especially as we live in this pandemic world?
Yes, there's probably at a greater time than ever before a focus on network automation to support modern applications. What we're seeing amid the pandemic is that as modern apps redefine not only what's required of network infrastructure in terms of greater automation throughout the network lifecycle, it's also changing ops as a result of that. In other words, network operations has to become more aligned with software development workflows, with what developers are doing with DevOps practices, with CI/CD, with basically SRE and all these other things. So we are seeing that networking is becoming hugely affected by this. In fact, so much so that, almost 50% of respondents to a recent COVID survey that we did said that over the next well into the future, they will be investing heavily on advanced network automation to reduce the amount of manual management that needs to occur on their network. So you can see that automation is a huge priority. A prediction that we have made that really results from what we're seeing in the marketplace through our consultations with customers and the surveys we're doing is that by 2023, more than 55% of enterprises will replace outdated operational models with cloud-centric models that facilitate rather than inhibit organizational collaboration. And this certainly will cut across the network in a huge way. And further extrapolating what that means for the network, we certainly believe that what we're seeing in this trend is the replacement And really the relegation and really relegation to history of a kind of hardware-defined, device-centric model of operating the network to a more software-centric, cloud-driven model for operating the network.
So, Brad, here you're describing a lot of change that is underway, and you're also describing that the pace at which this change is going to happen is accelerating. Are there any takeaways from our audience where you might guide them on how to think about this and how to sort of chart their course?
Yes, absolutely. I think, you start first by really looking at your applications, and especially as you move into this era of modern applications, look at the nature of the applications, the infrastructure in which those apps will run, their requirements from a networking standpoint. Be able to work more collaboratively too across disciplines in terms of working with DevOps, working more closely with platform teams, SREs. Make sure that you're serving them as a network operator. Make sure the network is in perfect tune with that. A big part of automation too should be simplification of network processes. Networking has been inherently complex. We talked about the device-centric model, and I think we're moving to an era where it has to become simpler. One of the points that we like to make is that the network has become more important than ever, but at the same time, through automation and through the use of some of these more DevOps aligned practices, it needs to become more invisible at the same time. So it is a paradox, but there's no question of the network's importance in the cloud era, but it'll be a different network from the one we had before.
That's great guidance, and I'm sure our audience is going to be able to take that and use that as they think about their own journeys. That phrase that you used there, Brad, making the network invisible, it really does capture the essence of what you've tried to communicate over the last few minutes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Ambika.
With that, I'm going to turn this over to Perry Monclus. Perry is our CTO for networking and security. Perry is going to chair a panel with a few customers and tease out some very interesting perspectives and contradictions that the modern network needs to help resolve. Thank you, and over to you, Perry.
We are now going to switch gears, and we are going to get into understanding how practitioners are experiencing the network and the network transformation. I'm Perry Monclus, CTO in the Network and Security Business Unit at VMware. And today with me, I have Ken Owens, VP of Software Engineering at Mastercard, and Greg Lavender, CTO at VMware. As we discussed, the world is changing fast. We are seeing a big transformation towards public cloud and multi-cloud. We see a lot of application modernization, and we see, of course, a lot of remote working. And this puts a lot of strains and demands into the network. Today, we are going to discuss how do we view those network transformations in the industry, and what's going on in terms of how do we solve the problems that this implies. So maybe let me start with Ken. Ken, as driving the Mastercard strategy in terms of application transformation, what do you expect from the network, and what problems do you see in the way we are operating and managing the network today?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question, and one that we think about quite a bit in terms of how to get the network out of the way, right? We spend a whole lot of time today asking for IP addresses, for security rules and policies to be put in place. And since spend way too much time caring about the bits and bytes of the underlying infrastructure and the different networking aspects than we would like to. We want to be more focused on what the application needs are, what the components and what the capabilities are that the application needs from the network. We'd much rather have an API interface that we can, programmatically configure and ask for certain rules or policies to be put in place. And we'd much rather not have to worry about how the segmentation is done across the network and just have the network take care of what needs to be segmented, take care of what policies need to be put in place. And in short, just make it easier for the application team to deliver much quicker and with much more speed and agility than we have the ability to do today.
So what I'm hearing, Ken, is essentially that you're focusing on the business transformation, the business value, the making the developers more productive, and essentially finding a top-down view of the network and how the network can react to the needs of the application and improve productivity. Maybe, Greg, how do you see it? Do you agree with Ken, or do you see a different perspective as there's much more than just modern apps?
Yeah, thanks, Perry. Look, networking has been under transition, seems like, forever. And I think, the kind of things Ken's talking about is one of the main driving points for that is the speed of delivery of applications is dictating that the network services basically be treated as services. They have API interfaces, and they become more and more software defined, particularly on the east-west traffic side of it. And as you connect out to other hybrid cloud services, public cloud services, edge cloud services, you have the challenge of basically maintaining all that stability, reliability, and security across the network. And it's going to require a high degree of automation to keep everything in sync and to manage that. So everything from DNS to IPAM to firewalls to load balancers, all under transition. You got to keep layer 2 simple and build all the intelligence into the upper layers to deliver those services in a speedy and efficient manner.
So very interesting perspectives, Ken and Greg. I mean, in one side, we see what Ken is saying is that it's not about the bottoms-up understanding of networking and configuring from switches to routers to DNS to IP addresses, and it's more about how do I unlock developer productivity and business agility. As we move forward, should we, instead of focusing on networking and network components and network devices and IP address problems, are we seeing that the world is moving towards providing some sort of declarative intent and automation framework that you can attach to the lifecycle of applications or the lifecycle of data objects or the lifecycle of things that have meaningful business impact? So Ken, do you think that if we would focus on this type of approach and reinvent and redesign and reimplement the integrations of our systems with that would satisfy some of your needs for agility and developer productivity?
Definitely from a application delivery standpoint, being able to programmatically in our CD pipelines, request the intent or provide the intent of the application directly to the different services, not just the network, but the other services involved in delivering an application.
And Greg, from your side, do you think that would bring somehow the ability to bring the existing systems and the new systems, and of course with all the cloud architecture transformation that is required?
On what does identity mean in this new multi-cloud world where you have private cloud, edge cloud, colo facilities, public cloud, hybrid cloud. So identity is no longer a device with an IP address mapping. It's an intuple of identifiers that identify what's actually talking to what, and then expressed within the policy and within those intentions. The network has to then deliver those services, right, with speed and with scale and efficiency that it doesn't do today. I mean, it can take weeks to get firewall rules to colo facilities punched through. Okay, it can take days to get load balancer configurations updated and provisioned. This has to happen at a much, much faster rate, particularly with the move toward Kubernetes, which many modern apps are adopting and using Kubernetes and containers, in which case the IP addresses and those mappings come in and out of existence very quickly, particularly when you have functions as a service. So I think it's just really critical that as we get to an application-driven intentional model, that the network is still critical, but it has to basically respond to those intentions in a declarative way and implement them procedurally across the network in a consistent manner.
So summarizing your points, basically what we are saying is that it's not enough to just think networking as a monolithic layer. Probably we should envision it more as kind of three tiers of networking. I mean, if you think we have the physical network with all the principles of connectivity and addressing and so on, and that is being transformed and disrupted by essentially creating transitions to public cloud. Then we have this layer of network virtualization that essentially provides this abstraction that we can have common constructs, common concepts that expand from data center to cloud and still provide some sort of an infrastructure view of the network problem. And then we have these application connectivity services. And essentially the three layers together provide the foundation for this modern network where we can build kind of these dynamic systems and automation systems. Thanks for your perspective and feedbacks. I think it's been really interesting to see how you practice and basically how you see the evolution of the networks in your days and how you are essentially solving all these problems. And how, of course, we always have to remember that networking is about connecting things and how do we essentially break away from specific silos and we go towards this multi-cloud modern app transformation that we all aspire. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah. Hey, thanks very much, Prey. Enjoyed being with you.
Now, I would like to introduce Roberto Mari for a demo illustrating the power of the modern networking solution.
In this demo, we will watch the VMware Virtual Cloud Network, a modern networking solution in action. Before we start, let's talk about why a modern network. Applications are becoming highly dynamic and complex. They are built on distributed cloud-native architectures defined by containers and microservices. We need a modern network to provide the connectivity services for these applications, one that puts the end-user experience first. In our demo, we look at the employees at a large enterprise firm that are enrolling in the yearly benefits. Because of the COVID pandemic this year, the employees are particularly careful on the medical benefits. They want to explore options and select the best coverage for their family and dependents. Jenny, among thousands of other employees, starts with the enrollment. When Jenny is ready to finalize the submission, she runs into a problem. The enrollment confirmation page is not loading. It takes several seconds for the transaction to complete, but eventually it goes through. So this is a happy ending. There was a glitch, but the underlying network was able to adjust. Let's roll back the clock to analyze what happened. We will start from the end-to-end view and follow the user journey. These days, users are working from everywhere. Offices, home, and other locations, connecting through the VMware SD-WAN back to the East Coast data center. A front-end load balancer distributes the application transactions into the Kubernetes clusters where our HR application is running. Let's look at the remote edge side first. The VMware SASE is our secure access service edge solution that combines industry-leading VMware SD-WAN by VeloCloud with secure access. The solution can be deployed leveraging a unique global network of cloud service nodes, the SASE POPs. Visibility at the edge is key. Here is the SD-WAN Edge Network Intelligence dashboard with all the remote locations that are being managed. Sites are marked in red when the user experience is poor. Let's click now on a problematic site. The HR application is experiencing poor performance, and several users are impacted. There is no problem on the Wi-Fi side, and this incident is root cause to a high TCP latency over the WAN connection. Let's move over the WAN and data center to investigate the user transactions going through the NSX Advanced Load Balancer. There is an increase on the server-side round-trip time and application response time, which further suggests an issue on the data center side. A service performance dashboard confirms the HR benefit service was degraded based on a latency SLO violation. A transient anomaly is observed when the P99 percentile latency crosses a critical threshold, reflecting a bad user experience. Time to get an end-to-end view. The VMware vRealize Network Insight monitors end-to-end connectivity for remote sites, data centers, and public clouds. From a single vantage point, users' activity can be tracked as they reach out from the remote locations across the SD-WAN back into the East Coast data center where the HR application is hosted. Broad visibility in this heterogeneous environment represents a key advantage. It gives the ability to pinpoint issues across the virtual and the physical layer to quickly identify the source of the problem and drill down to investigate. The automatic discovery of a performance baseline allows to detect flows with abnormal latency. This information, correlated with the flow count, shows that the service degradation occurs when a large number of employees try to access the HR application. Thankfully, the real-time application analytics can be used to automatically scale out load balancers and applications. The NSX Advanced Load Balancer controller seamlessly autoscales load balancer by bursting to the cloud and uses GSLB capabilities to balance traffic between the data center and the cloud. Since the NSX Advanced Load Balancer natively integrates with the underlying cloud or data center environment, the controller can also trigger the autoscaling of backend application servers. The Advanced Server Load Balancer configuration now shows new instances of the load balancer on-prem, in the AWS cloud, and a global server load balancer. The dynamic autoscale operates across multiple public clouds like Azure, AWS, and different on-prem geographical locations like the East Coast and the West Coast of the US, adding capacity close to the users. NSX provides connectivity and consistent security for all the applications in this heterogeneous domain. The newly created clusters are now part of a single global namespace which defines the application boundaries. The resources and the workloads that make up the application are distributed across all the data center locations, AWS and Azure. All the services in the global namespace use the same service discovery domain with end-to-end encryption. Nothing special to make this work. Just add a service to the global namespace and the system does everything for you. Finally, looking at the Performance tab, we see how the increased number of users' requests and the SLO violation was compensated by auto-scaling more instances of the HR application in the global namespace. Our modern infrastructure adapted quickly, matching demand with capacity to maintain an optimal user experience. One of the benefits of a modern network is certainly its improved operational cost. With a traditional network, tickets are open and processed. Manual troubleshooting and remediation actions are taken, involving multiple people across different teams. The result is a very complex process which may last days or weeks. In a modern network, the built-in self-healing and auto-scale replace the manual operations, speeding up a problem resolution from weeks to hours or minutes, reducing the cost and preventing major outages. I hope you liked the demo. Please be in touch with us to discuss how the virtual cloud network can help solve your business needs. Thanks for watching.
So you can clearly see that network virtualization is at the heart. It's like the glue that ties together the whole notion of the software-defined data center, and it allows you to deliver what I call the public cloud experience in your private cloud infrastructure. Agility, cost savings, flexibility, and better security, all wrapped up into a single architecture. So thanks for taking your time, thanks for learning, and if you want to get more information, you can click on the link and you can begin a conversation with us about taking your journey towards a modern network.